Welcome to the Responder Reset podcast, created by Lighthouse Health and Wellness. I'm your host, Rich Creamer. This podcast exists because the job didn't come with the reset button. We're here to talk about what the uniform takes from us and what it means to take it back. Real stories, real conversations, no filter. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to the Responder Reset podcast. This is going to be episode 5. We're still in that series. This is part 4 of the 7-part series of the 7 deadly sins of public safety wellness. We're going to talk gatekeeping today. You know, gatekeeping is probably one of the most dirtiest, quietest problems that we have in public safety wellness because it doesn't really announce itself. Doesn't come in super loud, doesn't come in kicking the door in or anything like that. Doesn't show up waving its arms all over the place. It just kind of stands at the door and decides who's allowed to come in. It's kind of like the bouncer for public safety wellness. And to be honest with you, we've let it slide for too long. We've let this gatekeeping kind of creep into our profession, and we've let it stick around for too long. You know, everybody loves the idea of wellness as long as they get to control it. As long as they have some ownership of it, and as long as their name stays attached to it, they are good with all things wellness. Just as long as nobody else comes along that's maybe a little bit more authentic, or maybe has actual lived experience, or, I don't know, maybe credibility in the space, more so than they do. And that's where gatekeeping seems to kind of creep in. And unfortunately, it's killing the very thing we're trying to build. So we see it everywhere. It's inside agencies. It's within peer teams. It's in complete wellness programs, and definitely within the industry itself, whether it be all these consultants and coaches and clinicians, speakers, influencers, whatever label you want to give yourself or them. But it's all within each one of those communities. You know, anyone that feels threatened the moment someone real shows up should tell you everything that you need to know about that person, because they're the gatekeeper. They disguise it with language like, oh, we need to structure things, or we need a policy, or, you know, best practices says that we need to do this. But the root of it is simple. It's ego, and it's insecurity, and it's actually fear pretending to be leadership. Unfortunately, agencies are loaded with this. You know, organizational gatekeepers are the ones that swear they want in on all things wellness, but only if they get to define it. They don't ask for input from the boots on the ground that are actually going to benefit from any of the wellness initiatives. As long as they can throw their name on it and say that they were able to, you know, do this for the wellness of their organization, then that's when it's okay. But the minute they get a little bit of feedback or constructive criticism, or even something completely away from some of the things that they're trying to implement, they close the door very quickly, and they get to make the choices as to who gets to gain access and who doesn't. And that doesn't help anybody. You see, a lot of times you'll hear folks that'll bring ideas to the table to these wellness coordinators or peer coordinators, or even, you know, lieutenants, captains, chiefs that are overseeing these programs. And usually they're met with, well, that doesn't align with the agency's approach to wellness. Well, sometimes we have to think outside the box, and sometimes things just don't show up in a manual. They don't show up in a book that you're handed when you make rank. Sometimes we got to listen to some of these innovative young ideas because they're the ones that are going to be in place long after You're gone long after that gatekeeper is gone, and they're the ones that are going to drive the culture away from this gatekeeping mentality. So, with all that said, like I said, it's a lot of excuses. But at the end of the day, if you're met with it doesn't align with either the organization, or it doesn't align with the company, or it doesn't align with my thoughts on wellness, that's just code for, hey, you're telling the fucking truth and we don't like how it sounds. So take it from somebody that's sitting on the other side, fighting against some gatekeeping. I've heard that. I've actually been on the other side of a conversation where I've heard those things. Oh, this doesn't align, or we're not looking for something like that, or you're a bit too much. Well, that's fine, but last time I checked, change isn't made the easy route. Sometimes we got to go a little bit outside of that box and start implementing things that most folks said that couldn't get done. And I think most organizations, they see that person as a problem, whether it's wellness, whether it's policies, whatever it may be, specifically wellness. They look at them as problems. They look at somebody like that as someone that they can't control. And that's where gatekeeping rears its ugly head. Who can I put in a spot and kind of control the narrative as to what I want to implement within my agency? And unfortunately, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So let's talk about wellness industry gatekeeping, where wellness becomes a brand, something to protect other than something to actually live and embody. People take their little corner of the space like it's their own intellectual property. They block any collaboration because they're terrified someone will outperform them. And I see this a lot in some of the bigger organizations that may host a lot of the conferences. A lot of the conferences become an echo chamber of people that they invite in. Because when someone comes in that may be a little loud, that may be questioning what it is that we're actually doing at a lot of these conferences, or a lot of these roundtables, or a lot of these committees, it does not go as smooth as most would think. You would think that most of these committees and most of these organizations would welcome new, fresh ideas. But if they don't align with the organization, or they don't align with the committee, or they don't align with the overall feeling of what wellness is specifically in that organization, then they're kind of labeled. Some can be labeled as angry. Some can be labeled as abrasive. Some could be labeled as a bit much. And these are all labels, unfortunately, throughout my career and my current space, that I've heard all too often. So, these voices are the same voices that, unfortunately, push the narrative. These voices, if you take a deep dive, and I welcome you to do that, I welcome you to kind of look at some of these organizations that are holding these conferences, and look at these boards, and look at the lived experience. Look at the lived experience in a lot of the spaces and a lot of the titles that are being held within these organizations. And I'm going to quote a friend of mine who made a post not too long ago. Ask them to show their work. Ask them to why they got into this in the first place. Ask them why their lived experience is pretty much null and void when it comes to public safety. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have lived experience in other facets of wellness, whether it be a mental health clinician, whether it be an athletic trainer, whether it be someone that may be married to somebody within the public safety culture. And I think each one of those has a role in public safety wellness, but it's not the only role. And I think for some reason, it kind of brought me to this point in this 7-part series that we needed to address it, and we needed to call out literally the newest and ugliest form of gatekeeping, and the one that nobody wants to talk about out loud. It's the wellness coordinators with no lived experience, and we're seeing it more often. We're seeing folks who go on and become licensed professionals, gearing or posturing to get into the public safety wellness space and taking on these wellness coordinator jobs with little to no experience, little to no lived experience. Now, as a wellness coordinator, if I'm a licensed professional, I shouldn't be doing any type of therapy under a license. I should be coordinating care, not providing it. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is these people are stepping into roles. These roles are meant to guide the culture and to guide healing and to guide resilient behavior. And they have absolutely no understanding of the world that they're stepping into. You see, they've never worn a uniform. They've never taken a call for service. They've never walked into a home and kind of felt a shift in the air when you respond to something. And they've never lived parts of the job that actually take pieces from you. But what they will do is they'll say that they're experts. Their signature line is matched with a bunch of alphabet soup, I guess would be the best way to describe it. They get the title, they get the corner office, they get that little bit of authority, and the first thing they do is they surround themselves with the people that actually did live it. The peers, retirees, when they're allowed to be in the space, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit, speaking as a retiree, but the retirees and those responders that are still carrying the weight of their scars with their stories and their own personal truth. They'll surround themselves with those people and they'll exploit it. And part of that exploitation empowers them. It empowers them to use some of those examples that are provided or some of the experiences provided. They take our language, they take our insight, they take the emotional labor, and they repeat it like they own it. They build credibility off the backs of the very people that they're supposed to be lifting up. And we have to start talking about it. And we have to start speaking for the culture when the truth is that they've never, ever been part of it or have experienced anything like it. The other thing is, as responders, we pick up on that almost immediately. So there'll be frustration. These wellness coordinators will whine that nobody is utilizing their services, and that's because as responders, we probably possess the biggest bullshit meters on the planet. We can catch somebody in a lie very quickly. We can expose them for what they are. And unfortunately, administrations are blinded by credentials and not the lived experience. Um, you see, you can't fake lived experience. You can't rehearse being authentic. I mean, you can, and you may be able to get away with it for a little while, but sooner or later you'll get exposed. And you damn sure can't replicate the scars that are being carried. Um, you can tell me about the people that you've spoken to in the past. You can tell me about some of the things that you were exposed to as a spouse, but you'll never be able to tell me about the scars that I'm carrying, or any of the folks in public safety are carrying. But unfortunately, it gets done all too often. And we talked about this at length over the past couple of episodes. Without trust, any wellness initiative is dead before it starts. And once responders kind of see the person leading wellness has zero connection or no real connection to the job, that trust goes right out the window. And, here's the ugly truth. Agencies put these coordinators in their place because they're convenient. I'll say it again. Agencies put these coordinators in place because it's convenient. See, they're controllable. See, they're safe. And they're not going to question anything that the organization leadership wants to come out of a wellness initiative. Most, unfortunately, are checking a box by placing a wellness coordinator in place. And unfortunately, what happens is we find ourselves in this loop of check the box wellness behavior, and then we wonder why we continue to have silence and why we continue to have suicides of our brothers and sisters. You see, these people, they won't challenge leadership. They won't disrupt the narrative that is the wellness space in public safety. And they damn sure won't push the uncomfortable truths. They won't bring them to the table. They won't bring those truths to the table because they want a level of comfort as well. They want the position so they can be deemed the subject matter expert, and they'll do anything they can to keep it. And sometimes organizations know that and use that to their advantage. See, wellness, unfortunately, has become a career move instead of a calling. In trying to find my purpose after retirement, all things led back to wanting to help folks not have to experience some of the things that I experienced throughout my career. You can call that a calling. You can call it whatever you want. But unfortunately, most people are positioning themselves because they know that there's a dollar to be made off the backs of the pain of those folks doing the job day in and day out. You see, the real ones, those that have been through hell and back, we get used for our experience. Everybody loves to hear our story. Everybody loves for us to come up and share stories and kind of break open the conversations. And hopefully those conversations lead to connection, and hopefully that connection leads to a handoff either to a wellness coordinator that may carry a license, or to a wellness coordinator that can make the best recommendation. But it's tiring. I don't know how much longer someone like myself or some of the folks that I've grown close with in the space are going to carry this torch much longer. I don't know how much more exploitation could be had, to be quite honest. I think if we take a wider angle of what this gatekeeping is, at the end of the day, it's about somebody's ego. Like if we really wanted to widen the lens a little bit, I think at the end of the day, it's somebody that can position themselves and hold the title and be in the room and be looked upon as this subject matter expert. Make sure that they're taking the photos with the right people, making sure they're aligning themselves with trusted people in the space. That's ego. You see, you know, people want to be the face of wellness, and that's fine. But be the force behind it too. Don't just post all the stuff that you're claiming to be doing when the hard truth is you're not doing a whole lot except for self-promoting. You see, the wellness space isn't as big as most people think it is. And people talk. And people in this space are very close. And there are some that you keep at arm's length. And there's a reason for that. You know, they want the ones that you keep at arm's space, you know that all they really want is that opportunity to catch that one picture with somebody that's respected, or maybe they can have them jump on their podcast for a reason to prop them up as being legitimate. Take a look around. There ain't nobody here. And you can make your own choice. You can do your own homework on me, whether or not it's legitimate or not. But I've got almost a solid decade in being part of this machine called wellness. And I can smell you guys coming a mile away. And what's funny is I've watched people come in and leave, come in and leave, come in, make some noise a little bit, and then get exposed. And I think here lately, we're starting to see some more exposures, which is great. I think it's great. I think finally, whether it's this podcast or social media followings that are starting to see what's truly behind the curtain, I think it's necessary. If you're not vetting these people, if you're not actually taking a hard look at the work that they've put in, if they're not continuing to educate themselves, if they're just aligning themselves for the photo op, you're going to be able to see it. But you got to pay close attention because they're good. These gatekeepers are good. You know, they have an innate fear. They have a fear of being replaced. They have a fear of, you know, being challenged. They have a fear of someone with lived experience calling them out on their bullshit and exposing just how shallow of an understanding they have about public safety. And you see, insecurity is the very foundation of every gate. So you have fear, you have ego, you have insecurity. And we got to remember that people that feel insecure about their relevance, they want to cling to that control. They hold on for dear life. They don't want to let go of that control. And if this sounds familiar to you in the space that you're in, I implore you to question it. If you're seeing somebody that is hiding behind that alphabet soup, they're hiding behind all their credentials. They're hiding behind all their letters that they have, and they're hiding behind that administrative power that's been given to them by the seat that they've been given. Just remember, nothing replaces trust. So they can hide and they can put on a great show. They can say all the right things with all the right people in the room. But at the end of the day, nothing will ever replace trust. And I'm here to tell you, we are slowly but surely kicking down these gates. It's a slow process because unfortunately what's happened over time is those that are in the space for the right reasons have slowly merged into a conversation with those that just kind of appeared, and we're all been put into this same conversation. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because I'm sure that there are great people wanting to do the right things, and they've aligned themselves with folks that aren't in it for that. But they get the most clicks. They get the most likes. They have the New York bestseller that was written by some AI machine, which is fine. I understand that this is the nature of where we are as a society. Nobody wants to do the work. They want the quick fix. They want the easy way. They want the easy button. And by utilizing that easy button, you've now put the wellness space back 5 or 6 steps. But we're going to claw back to where we were. We're going to claw back the way we were. I'm kind of got on a tangent there, and I'm going to bring myself back. But I want to hit on the trust portion of it. Trust isn't built in a classroom. It's built in the streets. It's built in your credibility. It's not built on one ride along. It's not built on a couple of sessions that you might have with somebody. It's your credibility and that trust is built on your lived experience. And if you don't have it and you're fudging it along the way, you will be exposed. And now more than ever, I think the light is starting to shine its brightest on those pretending to be something that they're not. So let's talk about the impact of what gatekeeping does. I kind of alluded to it a little bit, but let's really get into the nuts and bolts. First, at the end of the day, responders, they lose trust. We can smell the fakeness. We can sense when somebody's delivering a canned message. We can also smell when somebody's trying to understand the world that we live in. And we pull back. And we stop engaging. And we stop participating. And we stop believing in the very thing that we're supposed to be putting forth our efforts into. You see, I think initially when folks start to see a wellness initiative kind of pop up, they want to know, well, why now? And any good person with lived experience can get in a room full of those questions and be able to answer them without doing a little dance beside it. Be able to have the tough conversation and try to explain as to why it's important that we do this now, as opposed to somebody that just gives the canned answer. Secondly, one of the big reasons, one of the bigger impacts is we have people that get elevated that are the wrong people. Not saying that I'm the right person. I let people make that determination for themselves. But I'm saying we have a tendency of elevating the wrong people in this space. Performers is number one. I've written my fair share of articles on this, and I think people know how I feel about performance-based wellness. We prop these folks up. We prop them up. We prop them up so much that we're willing to give them, $45. What's the going rate now? $45,000, $60,000 to come in for a couple hours to tell us that we're all fucked up with no resources in place. But yet we've given them the keys to the castle when it comes to wellness. They've became the show. They are wellness in their own mind. And the more we keep propping them up and the more we keep paying an ungodly amount of money, $60,000 for a couple hours, do you know what most agencies in this country would do with a $45,000 budget for their wellness, or a $60,000 budget for their wellness, and not just a one-time 2-hour event where I got to pay for the guy's book afterwards, and he writes a nice message about keep moving forward. We got to do better. We have got to do better. Politicians, those that don't want to, they don't want to ruffle feathers. They like where they're at, whether it be on a committee or whether it be for an organization. They like where they're at. They love their position. So they're not going to push back. And there's a place for those people, but it isn't where actual work is being done. If you want work to get done, we've got to have a disagreement every now and again. We're going to have to push the envelope every now and again. If we want to get stuff done, we can't surround ourselves with a bunch of yes men and women because somebody's got a great idea. We got to push back on it, and we got to do a better job. I guess this goes back to the performers. We can throw somebody on a stage for 60 minutes that doesn't say a damn thing, but we prop them up. We give them the space to do it. They talk about, their lived experience, which is nowhere near what people go through in public safety. But the narrative that they use somewhat aligns it with what we deal with in public safety. So we give them the space to do so. Stop giving them the space. Stop giving them a microphone. Stop giving them the opportunity. Because, like I said a few moments ago, we find ourselves in this jumbled bowl of resources. And when the time is ticking and somebody needs somebody, or somebody needs some training, actual training, we don't know who's who. And that gatekeeper is front and center, making sure that you come through me first. I'll decide whether or not that person's a good person for this agency. I'll decide whether or not I'm going to allow this training to come in. And unfortunately, it stops progress. It stops progress. We also, and I talked to you about the folks that come and go. I like to call them the skyrockets. They take off real fast. They got a great message that they probably stole from somebody else. They use their message. They get it out there. They illuminate the sky, and then they fizzle, and they're nowhere to be seen again. But not before they're able to, under the guise of not digging into somebody's wellness budget, but maybe taking a little bit of that federal grant money for training. You see, we're on to you guys too. We're on to you too. We see you come in, big flash of the pan, the one-stop solution. And then we never see you again, which just lends to what I said in the opening. We've got to do a better job at vetting these folks, and not in a gatekeeping sense, but in a sense of literally putting the right person or persons in front of our people to ensure that the message is getting out there from somebody that not only is educated, but also has the lived experience to go with it. You see, and all the while, all these people that I just described, a lot of the folks that are out there with the scars and the honesty and the impact just get ignored. Oh, they're just being loud. Oh, they're just mad because they don't have what I have. I don't want what the fuck you got, because what you got is fake. Like, you can jump on your social media platform and tell me, like I said, how to live my life. Well, this is more so the gatekeeping coaches, the law enforcement coaches, and this is something that I've seen all too often over the past couple months, is that if I can't get off the ground as a speaker, if I can't get into the space with my speaking ability or my canned presentation, then I know what I can do. I'll be a coach, and I'll gatekeep all of this great mentorship for the low price of $99 per Zoom call. That's what I'll do. I'll figure out a way to sneak into this culture sooner or later. And these are my burnouts, my skyrockets that burn out at the end. Let them do what they got to do. Sooner or later, they'll be gone. And it's unfortunate, because that's what you're up against, and that's what you got to see, and that's what most people are seeing within their social media feeds, whether it be any one of the social media platforms or LinkedIn or whatever it may be. We've got these folks that fizzle out, and now we're left with, well, where'd they go? Maybe they weren't the people we thought they were. And I think to wrap that all up, it's those with lived experience that get silenced, that get muted, that get borrowed, that get exploited, and lastly, get ignored. And unfortunately, when lived experience gets pushed out of wellness, I hate to break it to everybody, but that entire structure collapses. Because at the end of the day, lived experience is what is standing it up. Lived experience is the one that builds the bridge for a lot of these wellness initiatives. Lived experience are your best vetting option when trying to build something out or invite people in. So how do you fix it? How do you fix it? Well, we got to bring that lived experience back to the front again. We've got to actually put that lived experience front and center, and not as a prop or as this little emotional accessory that we throw in the corner, or not just for our storytelling abilities, but as leaders. As leaders in this space, we need to put that lived experience front and center. We need to remove people using wellness as a stepping stone instead of as a responsibility. We have to demand collaboration, demand it instead of using it as competition. We have to make humility a requirement. You have to be humble in order to do this work. And especially if you're a wellness coordinator who came into the work with just book knowledge and little to no lived experience. You can't own this work. You don't own any of it. Everything that I have learned in my career, in my life, I want to give to other people, because those mistakes are the mistakes that I don't want anybody to make. But if I sit back and I put a price tag on it, or if I say, well, you can get this only if I can get credit for it, or you can have this only if I get this. We can't do this back and forth negotiation with wellness. We've got to be all in. We've got to be all in. You have to serve it. You can't own it. You have to serve it. And you have to be willing to step aside and let some of the experiences that you share and some of the knowledge that you share, you gotta let it go into the ether, and you gotta let people take those little bits of knowledge and start incorporating them into their life. Now, as you see them kind of slip, yeah, pull them in, let them know that they're slipping, but it's not yours. It's now theirs, and it's now theirs to give to other people. You know, everybody wants to put wellness in this nice, box with a red bow. And I guess that's my Christmas addition to this podcast. Wellness is not the nice, neat, gift wrapped box with the big red bow on it. It's the trash bag that we put all of the wrapping paper in when everybody opens up their gifts. It's messy. It's raw. And at the end of the day, it's human. And if someone can't handle that, they shouldn't be at the door standing guard over it. But here we find ourselves talking about it. We're still talking about it. I think at the end of the day, gatekeeping just protects people's positions. It doesn't protect the people. And the moment someone chooses control over care, or titles over truth, or optics over impact, they've already disqualified themselves from doing this work. We just have to be able to express that to the right people. We have to be able to put ourselves out there to expose some of what's going on with these gatekeepers within public safety wellness. If you're in wellness and you're afraid of losing your spot, you weren't there for the right reason in the first place. If you're threatened by somebody's lived experience, you don't belong anywhere in a leadership capacity. And if you're actually building a career off of other people's trauma while keeping them out, I don't know if I got a place for you. That's not, in the title, it's wellness coordinator. That's not coordination. That's wellness exploitation. And I'll say it again. That's not a wellness coordinator. That's a wellness exploiter. And until we start calling it for what it is, we will continue down this path of having to call out every fraud and every fake within the wellness community. Real wellness doesn't come from being on a committee. Doesn't come from a title, and it doesn't come from any of the borrowed language that most folks have to use because they've never used it prior to them gaining this position. You see, here's the part that nobody wants to say. For every time you got a gate, you're preventing somebody getting help. And I'll say it again. Every time that you put up that stopgap at the gate, you're standing guard over, you are preventing or delaying help for somebody. You're also silencing every voice, which then costs the trust of your organization, of your agency, of your committee, whatever it needs to be. Every time you block someone who could have made a difference in somebody's life, that somebody has to carry that weight. If I had the ability to help with something or help somebody get to a next level of care, and I'm being blocked by somebody because they feel that because I am quote unquote retired, I'm retired, I have to carry that burden if something happens to that person. Not them. Not them. And I'll give you an example. For a long time after retirement, I still receive phone calls. Receive phone calls from my old peer guys and girls, the peer team, talking about situations that they find themselves in, just looking for some guidance. Give them the guidance, and it works out well. And certain gatekeeper wanted to know where they got the information from to get that person the help that they needed. And when it was met with my name, it was, we don't need to use that person because I'm here. That's not how you get stuff done. Especially when the olive branch has been extended on numerous occasions to work in collaboration and not in a silo. But it goes back to ego every time. You see, I'd be lying if I sat here and didn't find myself on the other side of gatekeeping when I was a peer coordinator at times. But lived experience has shown me that wasn't always the right way. You see, I'm not without some skin in this game. But I have the ability and the self-awareness to recognize it, call it out, and swear that I'll never do it again. Which is why I find myself talking about it today. See, for so many, wellness is a brand, and for me, it's not. For so many, it's a performance, and for me, it's not. For so many, it's a ladder to climb, and for me, it's not. For me, it will always be a lifeline. For me, it will always be the uncanny ability to be present for somebody in their worst state and walking that journey with them until we find them the next level of care. My message is very clear to all the real ones out there, the ones that are carrying the scars, that are doing it humbly and with the courage. Keep pushing. Keep pushing forward. Keep speaking. And keep breaking down the walls that keep getting put up by these gatekeepers that should have never existed. Challenge it. Kick that fucker open. And don't ever look back. You see, the culture doesn't change because somebody guarded the fucking door. It changes when people finally decide that door was never theirs to control in the first place. We have to do our best to remove yet another barrier to ensure that our folks get the best care possible. And I'm going to close with that. I want to talk a little bit about the remainder of the year. This should be dropping a little bit after Christmas. We should be heading into the new year. We're going to finish out the 7-part series. Really looking forward to the next 3. We're going to talk families. We're going to talk about marginalizing lived experience, and we're going to talk about silence. Those are the last 3 in the 7-part series. I want to thank the Riverview Center yet again for providing this space and allowing me the platform to do this. I want to thank Lighthouse Health and Wellness and Lighthouse for Public Safety for the opportunity and platform to do this as well. I really look forward to 2026. I really look forward to bringing in some solid people within the space that can speak freely and without a filter. But I also want to talk to the everyday person. I want to talk to the people that are out there doing the job every day. I don't need a big name sitting next to me. I don't need somebody whose name carries weight on the internet to come sit next to me. I want the people that are out there doing the damn thing every single day to sit next to me and tell me the real hard truth of what this wellness initiative or wellness industry has become. So until then, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and reset. The Respond to Reset podcast is built by Lighthouse Health and Wellness for and by the people doing the work. If this hit home, pass it on. If you're carrying the weight, don't do it by yourself. Until next time, shift the mindset, change the outcome.